Hi, this is Larry Lursey, and welcome back to Photography Masterclass Magazine. This month I've got a really cool tutorial for you on actions. Now, actions are one of the most powerful tools that you have in Photoshop, and so many people just don't use them. So I'm going to try and introduce you to some of the things you can do with actions. If you're not already using actions, I think this will be a super helpful tutorial for you to kind of show you what all's out there. And if you already use actions a little bit, maybe this will kind of give you some ideas of some other things, other ways that you can use it. So basically what an action is you take a whole bunch of processes that you would do in Photoshop, things like sharpening, adjusting levels, all those type things, and you basically record yourself doing it, and then you can play it back and do it over and over. This is especially helpful if you have a certain look. For example, you do a photo shoot and you want all the images to have kind of that same look to them. You don't want to have to go in and do that over and over again. So that's kind of an example of something repetitive you would do. So let's just jump in here and I'm going to show you a few things that we can do. Starting up here in our Actions palette, you want to make sure, go up here to Windows, make sure that is checked, and you should have this little Actions palette right here. And first thing you want to do is, for this, if you want to follow along with the tutorial here, is go down and hit the little folder, and we'll just call this PMM tutorial. And we're going to put our new actions in this folder. You can put them wherever, it doesn't really matter as long as you keep up with it. But this tutorial folder right here. So first one I'm going to do is a retouching action. Whenever I work on an image, just about every image I work on gets retouched to some point, and I always do retouching on its own layer. So we're going to start by making a copy of this layer and getting it ready for retouching. So what we're going to do, first thing we do is start the recorder. So up here, this little tiny arrow, hit New Action. And we're going to call this PreRetouch. I'm going to put it in the PMM folder. Function key basically allows you to assign these to a key. So I can do F2 here, and now whenever I hit F2, it's going to run this action. So we hit record, a little red recording light comes on right there, tells you we're recording. Now, how fast you do these things or slowly you do things doesn't matter. You could do an action, wait a minute, do another one, do something else, and then it's going to rapidly do them all back to back. So you're not under any sort of a time constraint doing this. You're not trying to rush. Just go ahead and make sure you do it right. So I'm going to go here to my Layers palette. I'm going to drag it down here to make a copy. There we go. I'm going to click here and call this Retouched. And you can go ahead and change this one if you want to Original. That's how I do it. Okay. Go ahead and get back on here so that one's ready to go when we're done. And hit Stop. Okay, let me go back to my history real quick and get rid of all that what we just did. So as if we just opened it right here. Okay, so let's give it a try. We're right here. PreRetouch, we've got that selected. I'm going to hit play. And there we go. It's added a new layer called Retouch and Original. I mean, it took just a split second to do that. Really fast. Okay, so that's a really basic one. Let's think of something else we can do. When I am resizing an image, for example, I like to do it in small increments. I do a 10% scale. Everybody's kind of got their own theory on the best way to do this, but I like to do it 10% at a time. So what I used to have to do is go in, do image size, and change this number slightly every time, and it's kind of a nuisance. So I basically came up with an action where I could resize an image by 10% just by clicking a button. So let's go back in here, make sure we're in our PMM tutorial one. Let's start another one, new action, and let's call this 10% up. Whatever works for you so you know what it is. All right, we're recording right here. I'm going to go up here to Image, Image Size, and then I'm just going to change this pixels to percent. Change that to 110%. That's giving it a 10% increase. Hit OK. And hit Stop. Now all I have to do, selecting this, I can just, every time I hit this, it's going to do that same thing. For that matter, you could go in and while you're recording, do it 5 or 6 times and then stop the recorder, and you would have a 5-time upgrade, upsize, or however you want to do it. So huge time saver for something like that, especially if you need to go up 10 times or something. What would normally take you probably a minute to do, you can do in just a few seconds. So that's super handy as well. So that's kind of 2 we can do there. So let's go ahead and clear that off again, get back to our original, and let's do one more. For this one, let's pretend that you do a whole bunch of things to an image every time you work with one. So you go in here, let's say that, let's go ahead and make a copy here first. Well, first we've got to start our action up. So let's call this new action. Go up here, new action. We'll call this one crazy action. It's going to be crazy, all the stuff we do to it. Hit record. Okay, so this is what we do to every image. Let's pretend. First thing we're doing, make a copy. Call this crazy, so we know that that's all of our effect. So let's say this image, we want to go in and we want to add some noise. We'll add a bunch of noise. We can really see it so we know it's there. Alright, then we're going to go in and do image adjust, brightness contrast. And we're going to add some contrast to this. We'll add a bunch so we can really see it. There we go. And then we like to go in and do some color balance. Let's do a photo filter. How about that? Warming filter. Warm it up some. There we go. And then finally, let's do something really crazy. I'm going to make a copy of this layer. I'm going to do a Gaussian blur on that layer. Just whatever settings are fine. I'm going to change the blending mode to soft light. And then I'm going to merge that down. Merge down. And there we go. Hit stop. So that goes from there to there. Alright, so those are a bunch of steps we did there. You may love the way it looks, you may hate the way it looks. But let's go back in our history and start over. So here we are, we got this image again. We're on crazy action there, we hit play. In like a second, you've done all that. So, really huge time saver. Another thing you can do that's really cool, if you go into Bridge and you've got an image and say you want to do the same thing to all these images because that's what you do, you can go up here to Tools, Photoshop Batch, and then right there, PMM tutorial, PreRetouch, do my crazy action. I can set that up and run this action on that file or all the files in a batch. So it really is really handy, and everybody's kind of got their own thing that they do to every image, and if you have things like that that are repetitive, doing it with an action is a huge time saver, and you kind of just build up these libraries of actions, and you'll start finding other people have uploaded them. If you look around, people either sell their action sets or they'll put one up. So here's one you can do that makes it look like a Polaroid picture or something, you know, makes it look like a painting or whatever. Everybody's got all these different crazy actions, and that's basically how you make your own. So if you're not using actions, definitely encourage you to try some of that out. And if you are using actions, then hopefully you've come up with some ideas of some other things that you can do to speed up your workflow and use actions for more than just running a filter or something like that. So anyways, that's basically how they work. I hope that helps. If you have any questions, let me know, and I hope to see you again next month. Take care. Bye-bye.